Move to coach. This seat isn't for people like you." The entire cabin went dead silent. He looked up, his smile thin as a razor blade. 25 minutes from now, not just the seat would change hands, but the airline's entire booking system would go dark. Don't believe me? Just watch. Countdown starts now. T2500. Where are you watching from? Drop the name of where you're sitting, airport sofa, or stuck in traffic, below. And don't forget to subscribe to Black Stories Box so you won't miss this smooth yet stinging takedown next time. I never planned to document corporate revenge at 3,000 feet that Wednesday morning. The pre-boarding area at Atlanta International was already a pressure cooker. Delayed flights, understaffed gates, and that special brand of travel anxiety that's become America's unofficial mood since the post-pandemic surge. With midterm elections approaching and endless debates about inflation and border security dominating every airport television, the collective American tension was palpable. I settled into seat 1C, already capturing footage for my business travel channel when he boarded Jayden Carter, though I wouldn't learn his name until later. Perfectly tailored charcoal suit, platinum watch, catching the light, he moved with the quiet confidence that money can't buy but accomplishment creates. Several passengers glanced up, then returned to their phones, missing entirely the significance of who had just joined Flight 882 to Chicago. The trouble started when he approached row 1 Ampere. Flight attendant Victoria Reynolds, name badge perfectly visible in my footage, blocked his path with an exaggerated stance that reminded me of nightclub bouncers I've encountered in Miami. "Excuse me," Jayden said, extending his boarding pass. "My seat is 1 Ampere. Victoria barely glanced at the ticket before slapping it against his chest with enough force that several nearby passengers looked up in surprise. "This isn't the welfare line, honey. First class is for paying customers." The cabin froze in that uniquely American way, everyone aware something inappropriate was happening, yet collectively paralyzed by our cultural aversion to confrontation. I instinctively hit record as Victoria continued, her voice deliberately loud enough for the entire first-class cabin to hear. "Do you understand which boarding group you're supposed to be in?" The dismissive tone left no doubt about what assumptions were being made about the well-dressed black man attempting to claim his seat. From across the aisle, Nathan Klein in 1B snickered, "Upgrade with grocery store points." The comment hung in the air, emboldening Victoria further. That's when Zoe Chen, the teenage influencer in 2 Ampere, started her Instagram live. "Guys, you won't believe what's happening on my flight right now," she whispered, her shaky camera work only adding to the drama. The comments section immediately filled with reactions, the hashtag number #SeatWhileBlack starting to trend in real time. "This is giving major discrimination vibes," one commenter wrote. "Airline's still doing this in 2025, added another. "Is there a problem here?" Officer Kevin Rodriguez appeared at the front of the cabin, summoned by another flight attendant who had noticed the escalating tension. Victoria immediately launched into her narrative. Unauthorized passenger disruptive behavior, refusal to comply with crew instructions, a version of events so disconnected from what I'd witnessed that I found myself checking my own footage to confirm my recollection. The fabrication happening in real time was breathtaking. "You have 60 seconds to voluntarily deplane," Rodriguez stated, his hand resting casually on his radio. "After that, I'll have to escort you off, and that becomes a security incident." The threat hung in the air like the overhead oxygen masks nobody wanted to see deployed. That's when Trudy Jackson, a 6-7-year-old grandmother in 3C, hesitantly spoke up. "Young man," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "don't repeat the mistakes of my generation. I've seen this movie before in the 60-second. Started the same way, policy and procedure covering something uglier." Her intervention created a momentary pause, like a skip in the soundtrack of the unfolding drama. Several passengers shifted uncomfortably, the historical reference cutting through the modern veneer of our supposedly post-racial society. Jayden hadn't raised his voice once, didn't demand a supervisor. He simply glanced at his watch, a subtle Patek Philippe that probably cost more than Victoria's annual salary, and silently sent 3 rapid text messages, his fingers moving with practiced efficiency. I couldn't see the recipients, but his calm deliberation suggested this wasn't his first encounter with systemic obstacles. "I'd prefer to speak with the captain," he said, placing a business card face down on the nearest tray table. The overlay on my screen showed T2230, Victoria's power was so absolute in that moment that even the Wi-Fi signal seemed to stand at attention for her. She pulled out her phone and started a live stream of her own. "Y'all won't believe what I'm dealing with today," she narrated to her viewers, turning so the camera captured Jayden's face without consent. "Someone trying to sneak into first class again. Happens every day lately with these seat upgrades." The viewer count jumped from 89 to over 300 in seconds. Comments scrolled rapidly, "Put him in his place. Why do they always try this?" The digital audience egging on behavior that most would find appalling in person. Jayden made a quiet phone call, his voice barely audible. 7. Soft, limit, only. Auth code, Bravo Echo 9. Within minutes, something strange happened. The gate agents outside were frantically tapping their screens. One shouted to another, "The system's down, API error 429. A passenger waiting to board called out, "My reservation just disappeared from the app," another chimed in. "The website's not loading either." Bradley Wilson, the flight manager, rushed into the cabin with the brisk efficiency of someone accustomed to power. His authoritative stride suggested he'd resolved countless passenger conflicts with the same script, a script that typically prioritized moving aircraft over addressing legitimate grievances. His lanyard badge swung with self-importance as he navigated the narrow aisle. "I have the authority here," Bradley announced, barely glancing at Jayden as he addressed Rodriguez. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to deplane immediately so we can sort this out at the gate. We need to maintain our departure slot." The assumption that Jayden was the problem rather than the victim was evident in every word. He tapped his tablet, impatiently frowning when it failed to respond as expected. "System issues," he muttered, as though the technology itself was conspiring against him. Sophia Wong from 2B frowned as she glanced between Jayden's boarding pass and something on her tablet. I noticed her eyes dart to the aircraft's tail number visible through the window, then back to her screen. Her insurance industry knowledge seemed to be connecting dots the rest of us couldn't see. She leaned forward slightly, her expression changing from puzzlement to recognition. The PA system chimed, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a technical delay with our departure. We apologize for the inconvenience and will update you with more information shortly." The artificial time pressure created by departure slots suddenly evaporated, creating space for the situation to unfold at its own pace. Victoria's live stream continued, despite the airline's clear policy prohibiting such recordings, viewer comments scrolling rapidly as the drama attracted an audience hungry for conflict. I noticed the airline's social media policy icon on a safety card in my seat pocket. No live streaming of passengers. Interesting contradiction that would soon become important evidence in what was unfolding. Zoe zoomed in on Jayden's business card but couldn't quite make out the details. "Someone tell me what that logo is," she whispered to her followers. "I'd like to request the captain's presence." Jayden repeated his calm demeanor, a stark contrast to the chaos building around him. The hashtag had now expanded beyond local trends, with tabloid news sites beginning to pick up the story. A notification popped up on my phone. "Breaking discrimination incident on flight 882 ton, 1845 glowed on my counter." The airline had a fire prevention system, but unfortunately, they were dousing the situation with the gasoline of unearned confidence. Bradley continued insisting on Jayden's removal, while simultaneously trying to reconnect his tablet to the failing system. "We have protocols," he repeated the irony, lost on him that he was selectively enforcing some protocols while ignoring others. Around us, passengers were dividing into clear camps, those averting their eyes and adjusting headphones to create artificial distance from the conflict, those watching with visible disapproval but unwilling to intervene, and those, like a businessman in 4D with an executive platinum tag on his luggage, who were clearly struggling to maintain the social contract that keeps us from intervening in others' conflicts. With all the security concerns and staffing shortages we're facing, he ventured cautiously, "Perhaps we should focus on getting this plane off the ground with dignity." When Captain Thomas Mitchell emerged from the cockpit, his 30 years of experience was evident in his measured approach to the growing tension. His uniform, adorned with 4 stripes representing decades of safe flights and thousands of hours in command, carried an authority that transcended the artificial hierarchy being enforced by his cabin crew. The cabin quieted immediately, his presence commanding respect in a way Bradley's had failed to achieve. "What seems to be the issue?" he asked, looking between Bradley and Jayden with professional neutrality. Bradley began explaining his version of events, speaking rapidly about departure slots and protocol violations, his narrative becoming more convoluted as he tried to justify actions that were increasingly difficult to defend. Jayden calmly recited his booking number and cited the airline's own procedure manual. Section 12.4 requires verification of identity before making accusations or taking action against passengers. Additionally, your social media policy explicitly prohibits live streaming passengers without consent, particularly for the purpose of public ridicule. His knowledge of their own policies created a visible shift in the cabin's atmosphere. Bradley brushed it aside. "I need you to leave the aircraft now. We can discuss policies at the gate." His dismissal of documented procedures only highlighted the selective enforcement at play. T-1500 Zoe whispered to her followers, the countdown adding tension to her live stream. "The plot thickens, guys. He knows their rulebook better than they do." Nathan from 1B had joined the fray with his own live stream. "Pull him off already. We're all going to miss our connections because of this." But his chat was turning against him, viewers calling out his apparent bias. "Maybe check who's actually following the rules here," one commenter suggested. "That flight attendant is definitely violating policy," added another. Officer Rodriguez requested 1 more minute to follow proper procedure, his expression suggesting he was beginning to question the rush to judgment. "Let's verify the boarding pass properly," he suggested, a small but significant shift from his earlier enforcement stance. Jayden's business card remained face down on the tray table like a chess piece, waiting to be revealed at the perfect moment. Captain Mitchell's expression changed subtly when he caught a glimpse of the VNAV logo on the card. "Everyone, please pause all procedures," he said, his voice dropping an octave into what pilots call their command voice, the tone reserved for emergencies and absolute clarity. The sudden shift in authority was palpable, like air pressure changing before a storm. "One wrong decision right now will become a quarterly crisis," Jayden stated calmly as notification alerts from legal and board members pinged multiple phones in the cabin. The overlay showed T-1220. Bradley's face reflected confusion, turning to concern as the implications began to register. Bradley clutched his tablet like a protective charm. Unfortunately, he'd forgotten to charge his magic shield. The battery indicator flashed red, a metaphor for his rapidly depleting authority in the situation. He attempted to maintain his stance but was visibly wavering as the captain took a more direct role. Captain Mitchell stepped aside, making a call on his personal phone rather than the aircraft communications system, a telling choice that suggested he understood the gravity of the situation. "This is Captain Mitchell. I need immediate verification of a passenger's identity. Jayden Carter." The name meant nothing to me then, but the captain's tone conveyed everything. Meanwhile, Victoria's live stream continued despite Bradley's growing discomfort, viewers now asking what was happening, why the captain seemed concerned, and what was written on that mysterious card. "Verified. Thank you." The captain ended his call and turned to Bradley with newfound gravity that made the manager take an involuntary step backward. "Mr. Carter is the CEO of VNAV Systems and managing partner at Horizon Investment Group." The statement hung in the air for a moment before its implications sank in. VNAV Systems, the company that provided the backbone infrastructure for nearly every major airline's booking and API systems in North America. Bradley's confusion was evident. "Policy is policy," he began, but his voice lacked the conviction it had carried minutes earlier. Jayden interrupted by turning his tablet so everyone could see. "Your passenger service policies are powered by VNAV APIs. Let me also direct you to Clause 47 of our contract anti-discrimination provisions." He scrolled to a highlighted section. This clause allows for immediate review and potential termination of service to partners who create a hostile environment based on race, gender, or other protected characteristics. The clinical precision of his words carried more weight than any emotional outburst could have. He opened another app, revealing Horizon's 12.7% ownership stake in the airline's parent company. "I'm not just your service provider. I'm a significant shareholder with the authority to call emergency board meetings regarding policy violations that could impact company valuation." The implications were seismic. This wasn't merely about one passenger's mistreatment, but about governance, accountability, and the systems that either prevent or enable discriminatory behavior in corporate America. Sophia from 2B leaned forward. "Captain, if I'm not mistaken, this aircraft's tail number is N847VS. That's a VNAV leasing jet, isn't it?" The captain nodded once confirmation enough. Suddenly, the man they'd tried to remove from his rightful seat wasn't just a passenger. He was essentially their landlord, the executive whose company owned the very aircraft they were standing in. OMG, he owns their system. Zoe gasped, and her comment section exploded. Plot twist. The guy they're trying to kick off literally owns the plane and their booking system. Victoria had finally lowered her phone, though the damage of her live stream was already spreading across aviation forums and social media platforms. A digital overlay showed the airline's stock ticker dropping while NAVs rose steadily. When your boss's boss's boss is sitting in 1 ampere, suddenly 1 ampere becomes an impromptu boardroom. The dynamic shifted instantly, power flowing like electricity, finding its true ground. Jayden opened an app on his phone displaying aircraft registry information for all to see. N847VS leased to your airline for $2.3 million annually since 2021, he stated without inflection. Perhaps now we can address the actual issue at hand. Officer Rodriguez lowered his radio, waiting for upper management direction. His body language had transformed completely, now standing at a respectful distance rather than the confrontational stance he'd adopted earlier. Trudy Jackson murmured from her seat. Back in my day, they also called it policy when they wouldn't let us sit at the front. Her quiet commentary provided historical context that made several passengers nod in recognition of the patterns repeating themselves. Bradley had studied shortcut procedures only to encounter extended contract clauses. His professional certainty was eroding by the second as he sensed the ground shifting beneath his authority. He attempted to maintain composure but was visibly struggling to process the dramatic reversal of power dynamics. The aviation press had picked up Victoria's stream-sharing clips with industry commentators. Headlines were already forming: airline attempts to remove CEO from his own leased aircraft and discrimination, or misunderstanding VNAV CEO in first-class showdown. My own viral video, which I'd already titled First-Class Drama Passenger Denied Seat in my mind, was rapidly becoming a case study in corporate accountability instead. The cabin had gone completely silent, the soft hum of the auxiliary power unit the only sound as passengers witnessed a masterclass in quiet power. Jayden's CTO confirmed via text protocol 7 escalated. Within seconds, the PA system announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're implementing a ground stop for internal technical reasons. We apologize for the inconvenience and will provide updates as they become available." Passengers who had been checking their phones began to notice something unusual. "The website's completely down," someone in 4B announced. "Can't check in for my return," flight added another. The ripple effects of Jayden's Protocol 7 were spreading through the airline's entire digital ecosystem. Captain Mitchell's phone rang again. This time he put it on speaker. It was the airline's CEO, Alexander Bennett. "Tom, what the hell is happening? Our entire booking system just went offline. IT says it's something about API throttling from VNAV. We've got chaos at every terminal." The panic in his voice was evident even through the small speaker. Jayden leaned toward the phone. "This is Jayden Carter. Your booking endpoints have been disabled according to Section 8.3 of our service agreement, which permits service throttling or disabling upon violation of ethical conduct clauses." The silence that followed was deafening. The booking system had gone as quiet as a group chat after someone asks who's paid their share yet. "Jayden, what? I don't understand," Bennett stammered, recognition dawning in his voice. "What's happened?" "Your senior flight attendant physically assaulted me, denied me access to my rightful seat, live-streamed me without consent in violation of your own policies, and made discriminatory comments, all documented by multiple passengers. Your flight manager then attempted to remove me from the aircraft rather than following proper verification procedures. Officer Rodriguez was prepared to forcibly remove me without proper identity verification. All of this occurred on an aircraft leased from my company using systems powered by my company while I hold a significant ownership position in your parent company. What are your demands?" The CEO finally asked, the word demands hanging awkwardly in the air. "3 things, Jayden replied. "First, suspend staff, pending a proper investigation. Second, implement mandatory bias training with measurable outcomes, not just check-the-box exercises. Third, create a 24/7 incident reporting app that connects directly to your legal department and includes mandatory response timelines." Then came the twist nobody expected, and for Ms. Reynolds specifically, "I propose a redemption path. After completing comprehensive training, she becomes your first trainer for 3 months. Mistakes should educate, not just terminate." Victoria looked up in shock, her expression a mixture of confusion and unexpected reprieve. Zoe was openly crying now. "This is justice with brains," she whispered to her followers. "He's not just punishing, he's fixing the system." Her viewers were equally impressed, comments flowing in about the thoughtful approach to accountability rather than simple retribution. "You'll have signed documentation within 72 hours, the CEO promised. The overlay showed T0500. "And Jayden, I'd like to personally apologize." "Apologies without structural change are just marketing," Jayden interrupted. "I'll judge sincerity by actions." A side conversation revealed that a senator and several journalists were already calling the airline's PR department, though Jayden seemed unconcerned with this growing media storm. "The media angle is secondary," he told Captain Mitchell. "Fix the system first, explain it later." Sophia pulled up her database for everyone to see. Tail number N847VS is registered to VNav Leasing SPV. This aircraft is leased from Mr. Carter's company for $1. $9 million annually, with an additional $400 zero-inch maintenance contracts. Jayden nodded. "This isn't about whose seat anymore, it's about whose ecosystem you're operating in." The statement carried weight far beyond the immediate conflict, addressing the interconnected nature of corporate America and how accountability must exist at all levels. Nathan from 1B had fallen silent, his earlier mockery transformed into an awkward apology. I completely misread the situation. I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions." Officer Rodriguez also apologized. "I should have verified your identity independently before taking action. That was my failure." His professional demeanor remained intact, but his acknowledgement of error demonstrated integrity that stood in contrast to Bradley's continued resistance. Jayden suggested using the recorded footage as training material for the industry. "This isn't just your airline's problem. The entire transportation sector needs to address these issues systematically." The airline CEO signed an electronic memorandum of understanding, the digital signature appearing on screens throughout the cabin. Victoria stood trembling near the galley, her career flashing before her eyes. Jayden approached her directly for the first time. "The easiest path would be to terminate you immediately," he said, voice low enough that only those nearby could hear. "But that doesn't fix anything. It just moves the problem elsewhere. Redemption requires acknowledging mistakes, not running from them," he continued. "Are you willing to learn then teach others?" Victoria nodded, tears forming in her eyes as the weight of her actions and their potential consequences fully registered. The countdown overlay showed T0100, then locked in place, its purpose fulfilled. The airline announced a new passenger advocacy hotline over the PA system, sealing the incident with system logs, video clips, and witness statements. As it turned out, the seat not meant for him was on an aircraft that belonged to him. The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. Captain Mitchell made a public apology over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the airline, I want to sincerely apologize for the incident that occurred during boarding. We are implementing immediate changes to our verification procedures and passenger interaction protocols. We appreciate your patience and understanding." Passengers applauded, many turning to look at Jayden with newfound respect. A demonstration of the new incident report app appeared on crew screens, complete with verification checklists. "This will be rolled out system-wide within 48 hours, Captain Mitchell explained. "Every incident will be logged, tracked, and resolved with full transparency." Victoria signed her redemption plan, complete training, then become a trainer for 3 months. Her hands shook as she applied her digital signature, but there was determination in her eyes, the look of someone who recognized a rare second chance. Bradley was suspended pending an internal investigation, his authority stripped as immediately as he had attempted to strip Jayden of his dignity. Officer Rodriguez was invited to join a passenger security advisory board, his willingness to acknowledge error making him valuable to the reform process. "Our system will be back online in 15 minutes, Jayden informed the captain, with new monitoring protocols in place. True to his word, within minutes, gate agents were reporting system restoration, and the boarding process resumed for other passengers. 30 days later, bias complaint statistics would show a 72% decrease, with training completion rates exceeding 90% across the airline. Jayden established the Dignity in Transit Foundation, with Trudy Jackson joining its civil advisory board. The foundation's work specifically addressed how international tensions and security concerns often led to more aggressive screening procedures that disproportionately affected certain travelers, a nuanced approach that acknowledged security needs while advocating for consistent dignity. The incident had influenced corporate training beyond the aviation industry. Zoe's footage, edited with Jayden's permission and with inappropriate content removed, became part of management training at Fortune 500 companies, examining how bias manifests in customer service and how leadership can respond effectively to discrimination rather than defaulting to damage control. When Jayden finally settled into his rightful seat, 1 ampere, the atmosphere in the cabin had transformed. What began as a shocking moment of disrespect had become a case study in accountability systems thinking and the power of prepared leadership to convert conflict into meaningful change. Coffee before takeoff, Mr. Carter asked a different flight attendant, her service impeccable and her tone respectful. "Thank you," he replied with a slight smile. "And please call me Jayden." In the end, everything took off the plane, the stock price, and most importantly, awareness. You don't need to shout to make change happen. You just need to know which switch to flip. Where are you watching from? Tell us your story in the comments. What injustice have you witnessed while traveling? Subscribe to Black Stories Box for weekly justice served smooth yet impactful. And remember, sometimes the most powerful response isn't an outburst, but a carefully calculated checkmate.